After 2 weeks at home, I find myself back in Zakynthos. I'm here to pick up Serenity from Richard and Sheila, who have just finished their holiday. Previously, I'd spent a week sailing with Sue down the western coast of the Pelepponese, and 2 weeks cruising around the southern Ionian with David and Diane. This trip will be a little different, however. With the help of my friend John, we were going to sail Serenity around the south of the Peloponnese and to Lavrion on the east coast of Greece, a trip of over 250 miles. On the way, we were going to pick up his son Leo at Monemvasia. Our first job, after getting some supplies in, was to get our anchor out from underneath that of this super yacht. Once that was cleared, we set off and sailed around the south of the island to Kerry. This is where we stayed for the night. We put the anchor down and got some well-earned rest after an early start for our flights that morning. Next morning, John wanted to visit Maginnis Island, so it was launch Stinky. Stinky is the name we have given to our dinghy, following an unfortunate accident with the holding tank a year before. First we went along the south side of the island to see the cliffs, the caves and the arches along that side.
Going through it.
Just along here I had a little surprise in store for John.
I may have did that. Whoa. Oh, brilliant.
After safely negotiating that, it was around to the other side of the island, where there's a small beach, perfect for swimming. John couldn't wait to get in. He was keen to try out his new mask and snorkel. All too soon it was time to return to Serenity. We had a long passage to do that day, so we couldn't hang around too long. Our first port on this trip was going to be Grigorousa, where I'd been with Sue a few weeks ago. It was 47 miles away, or 9 hours, but with no wind forecast, this was going to be a long trip. So it was engine on, auto helm on, kettle on, and settle down with a packet of biscuits. I did find some little maintenance jobs to do to help pass the time. In the afternoon we got enough wind to get the cruising chute up, but it was more of a drift than a sail. Eventually, Grigorousa showed up on the horizon, and slowly but surely we got ourselves in. After getting ourselves neatly tied up to the quay, it was straight to the taverna. I think this is what John really came to Greece for. Suitably fed and watered, we made our way back to the boat and got ready for another long day tomorrow. We were up early the next morning for the 37-mile trip down to Methone. As we set off, it was flat seas again, so it was engine at first. We soon came to the fairy tale castle of Grigorousa. At first, John seemed a little bemused by this, but I think, as an architect, He found it quite dreadful. We continued on our way south, with the winds gradually building, and at last we got some decent sailing in. That kept up for most of the afternoon, but as we approached Methone, the winds died and it was a motor in for the last couple of miles. We went around the landmark of the Turkish tower and anchored in the bay in the shelter of the castle. The castle is Venetian in origin, built in the 14th century to control the seaways to the south. It changed hands repeatedly between the Venetians and the Ottoman Empire until Greek independence in 1832. We went ashore here for something to eat and then settled down for a night at anchor. The next day's sailing was going to be a bit more challenging. To get to our next stop, Porto Cagio on the Mani Peninsula, we had to cross the 50-mile open expanse of the Gulf of Messina. The wind was forecast to be stronger and from the west. However, as we left Methone, the wind had yet to show up, but the sea had a big swell that was rocking the boat as we motored away. We didn't have to wait long for the forecast wind to show up, so we hoisted the sails and off we went. Soon though we had a problem. This ship that we'd been watching was getting closer and was showing no sign of altering course. Time to get on the radio. I spoke to an officer on the ship who confirmed that they had seen us. He advised us to hold our course and speed as he was altering his to make sure that the ship went in front of us. We waited and watched.
I still reckon we're going to have to... Ian, yeah, you're on camera. We're absolutely fine. We're absolutely fine. Okay, Ian, that's good news. I believe you, Ian. Of course he was going to pass that little bit. Closer than I would have liked. Yeah, yeah. Here is a confident man.
With that out of the way, we could concentrate on sailing again. But we did have another problem. The wind instrument had stopped showing any readout at all. And with the wind increasing and the waves getting bigger, this was going to make life difficult.
Yeah, cool.
Mid-afternoon and the Mani Peninsula with Cape Matapan at its southern tip were now firmly in view. But then there was another surprise.
The turtle swimming just ahead of us. Just swam ahead of us in front of the boat.
Turtles don't swim that fast. It was dolphins.
Oh, lovely. Oh, lovely. Oh, wow.
A small pod of at least 6 dolphins stayed with us for about 10 minutes and gave us a magnificent show, unfortunately mainly under the bow where we couldn't see them. Showtime over, it was back on watch. For the sea,
Whoa, big break right behind.
ships, and a rare sight out here, another yacht. Soon we were there. This is Cape Matapan, the second most southerly point of Europe after Gibraltar. Now we could turn north and head for the safety of port. All we had left was the last couple of miles up the coast to Porto Cagio, we could get the anchor down and get some rest. Porto Cagio is a small fishing village and a well-protected anchorage for passing yachts. It's the most southerly on mainland Greece. For the Greeks, it's like going to Land's End. But there are no shops or tourist tat here, just a couple of tavernas selling locally caught fish. I used this opportunity to go up the mast and find out why the wind instrument wasn't working. I found that one of the pins on its connector block had broken off. It was literally terminal. Our next stage would see us crossing the Gulf of Laconia. This 25-mile passage would take us to the island of Pelepponese. The journey across here was uneventful, apart from the wind strengthening and veering round from the northwest to the northeast. With this in mind, we decided to anchor up at a sandy bay on the south of the island. This is Samos Beach on Pelepponese. It's supposed to be the best beach in Greece, but I think every island would say it has the best beach in Greece. Nonetheless, it's a great place to go for a swim. Sue and I were here a couple of years ago and the place was almost deserted, but now this is the main tourist season, so there is many people here enjoying the beautiful surroundings and crystal clear water. John thought it was fabulous and was obviously enjoying every second. But we couldn't stay here too long. We were due to meet up with Leo next day in Monemvasia. First though, we needed some food supplies, so it was around the corner and up to Pelepponese main town and port to do some shopping and find somewhere to eat. To get to Monemvasia meant going round the Cape of Malias. This has a fearsome reputation for the winds that accelerate round it and set up some vicious currents. These are exactly the conditions that were forecast for tomorrow, so we decided to do a night sail while conditions were at their calmest. With some ominous clouds gathering, we ate up, readied the boat and set off into the darkness with the intention of rounding the cape at around midnight. It was a new moon that night, so the only things that could be seen were the stars, the occasional lights on shore, and the bioluminescence in our wake. We reached Monemvasia at 3 AM and went on to anchor. First thing in the morning, we moved the boat onto the quay just as the forecast strong winds were starting. Leo would be arriving on the evening bus from Athens, so that gave us the day to relax, do some turtle spotting,
Are they great?
and a little bit of boat maintenance. Leo arrived in the late evening. In the morning, he and John decided to go over to the island and explore the old city. When they returned, we set off on the short 10-mile hop up the coast to Grigorousa. This is set in a small fjord-like inlet. We motored out past the old city, and then Leo got his first taste of sailing. We arrived at Grigorousa about 2 hours later. There was no room on the quay, so we simply anchored up and put a line ashore. Leo was soon enjoying his first swim. After spending a pleasant night at Grigorousa, we set off for the 25-mile journey up the coast to Leonidio Plaka. With good winds, we soon had the sails up and set on our way, and Leo quickly got the hang of this sailing lark. We soon put him to work though. Everyone has to learn how to helm the boat. Leonidio is surrounded by high cliffs and is well known as a rock climbing area. Plaka, or Plate, is the flat area in front of those cliffs, and this is where the port is. As we got to Plaka, the sun set behind the mountains, so we had a quick look round and went to the taverna. Next morning was another beautiful bright day, a perfect chance to get some brilliant pictures. Continued on our journey north and into the Argolic Gulf. Our next objective was Paralia Astrus, or Astrus Beach, some 20 miles away. We had some good sailing again that day, and then a final motor for the last couple of miles into port. The first job when getting into port is always to pack away the sails and tidy the boat. And then it was launch the drone to get some pictures before we lost the light. Drone successfully recovered. It was then into town for some shopping and something to eat. Next morning I sent the drone up again to get some pictures of the castle and harbour. Once that was done, we set off on the 30-mile journey across the Argolic Gulf to Ermione. Although it was calm at first, the wind soon picked up and gave us a great sail over. When we got to Ermione, we went on to the South Quay, which is always my favourite place to go. We had intended just to stay at Ermione for one night. However, strong winds were forecast for the next day, with up to force 8 around Cape Scilly, which is on our way to Poros. We decided to stay put and enjoy Ermione. We left Ermione and headed out on the next leg of our journey. However, we were now behind schedule and not able to make Lavrion, where we were due to hand over to Paul. A quick phone call and he agreed to meet us at Poros. This was going to be our last day's sailing. Going into Poros and motoring along the channel always feels special, with Poros South Quay on one side and Galatas on the other. This is a very popular place for yachts, and boats of all shapes and sizes call here to enjoy the many delights and services of Poros. For us though, it was around to the North Quay to get tied up, get the boat cleaned and ready for our handover to Paul.